What are you ladies doing? So far, these two roosters are getting along. And I don't mind keeping them both if they can live together cohesively and not overwork my hens or not fight with each other to the death. I'm not sure that's gonna happen. I do know the gray one has reached sexual maturity because he's already started mounting the girls. I'm not sure about the brown and white one, but I'm gonna let them still continue to both live. Hey! Get out of my garden. Come here. Come here. She just jumped from the wheelbarrow over this fence. And it looks like she's gonna try and do it again. I'm gonna face this way so if it happens again I can catch it on camera. So I'm gonna try and keep both of the roosters. Of course, if something happens, I'm probably gonna let go of the brown and white one and he'll become soup because I have not had luck in the past keeping two roosters with so few hens. But I do like them both for now. So today we are in the garden. I have got some cleaning up of various plants in various stages of death or dying that I need to do. Also a little bit of harvesting. I think I have a broccoli to harvest, maybe some root vegetables. And then I wanted to show you guys my cauliflower, which was definitely a loss in this fall garden, and how I'm going to fix it next year. Most of my broccoli has been harvested and is just living out its best life here. I'm not too concerned about taking the plants out because there's nothing that I could replant here right now that would live, that would grow. It is getting way too cold every night for me to put anything that is a baby out here in this garden. But this is the lovely head that we're gonna harvest today. And I also need to get these guys out of here. These were two little pieces of broccoli I left from their big head harvest, and they've grown a little bit more, but they're starting to get some frost damage right here. So I'm just gonna take them inside and either blanch them for freezing or cook them up tonight for dinner. And then over here in the in-ground garden, my broccoli that I have in this row is doing pretty well. This is a colder part of my garden, so they do get a bit more damage, but they're all still alive and growing. And all of this row, I believe, is going to be imperial broccoli. Unfortunately, I have learned this year that these tags don't hold ink very well, and probably 90% of the tags I have labeling my garden plants have just washed away and they're just white, which is cool because that means I get to reuse them. But I need to find some different kind of marker to use on these next year. Or this year. Oh my goodness, it's January 1st, so this year. This cabbage here that I have growing in the next row over is growing really slowly. These plants are tiny. They have been frost damaged multiple times just because they were so small in their growth when we started getting really cold. So I'm not sure that I'm going to get a harvest out of these before spring, or even, I mean, see, they've already started little heads. And so I'm not sure how that's going to affect the overall growth into a larger head when it starts warming up. But I still might get something, so that's good, and I'm definitely going to get something out of my broccoli. What I'm not going to be able to harvest for the rest of this winter gardening season is cauliflower. And I wanted to show you guys what happens to cauliflower when it goes through a freeze and why I have such a hard time growing it here. Here were 4 cauliflower plants that I have already harvested from. I got good heads off of them, but I had a few, this one and several in this bed, several in this row right here that I didn't get to because they were not large enough to harvest before we started freezing every night. And what happens to cauliflower heads when they freeze is this. Ew. Now, although cauliflower is a frost-hardy plant, the plant survives, but the very head that you want to eat is susceptible to frost damage. It can tolerate like a certain touch of frost, slight low temperatures, but if it gets a few good freezes in, it's just the white outside becomes mushy and then it turns brown and it's ruined and gross. And that is what happened to all of my cauliflower in this garden, because it just wasn't big enough by the time I needed it to be big so that I could eat it. And this phenomenon will happen no matter the stage that the cauliflower is in. Here I have a little tiny cauliflower that was still growing, and it got a few good freezes, and now, I mean, this whole head is pretty much ruined. And it's so tiny, it's like the size of a golf ball. And the sad thing is that cauliflower head will continue to grow. It'll just be all gross when it grows. So it's just a completely useless vegetable at this point. Which is fine. I'm gonna give it to the chickens. It'll be chicken food. It'll be great. I knew this was a possibility when I started this particular fall garden, which is why I did a step planting of earlier in the fall and later in the fall, kind of like an experiment of which is better to grow my fall crops before the freezes come. Because if you're not familiar here, I live in the high desert, which makes for really, really hot summers and then really cold temperature drops at night in the winter. So I can be 80 degrees during the day at the beginning of November and be dropping to the 30s at night. And that temperature differential will just increase as the winter goes on. Right now we're getting into the teens every night. The highs during the day are probably in the 50s. So definitely this coming fall in November 2024, I think I'm going to do all of my cauliflower at that earlier planting that I did this year. I don't remember when it was. I will have to check the dates, but you can always go back to my videos because I did videos of it. And not do any late plantings of cauliflower because they're just taking up space and it gets too cold too quickly, and then I don't get any cauliflower for the rest of the winter. But the broccoli and cabbage are doing fine. The broccoli and cabbage are cold hardy, and my broccoli is still growing. I have tons of it that's got yet to come up. And then the cabbage, of course, although it's growing really, really slowly because it's the winter, it will survive throughout the winter. And then once it starts warming back up again in like March, maybe even late February, those plants will kick off and I'll have a spring harvest of cabbage that I planted months ago and I just didn't have to worry about. In this bed I have Inquisition cabbage and Durgesh 41 cauliflower that never quite took off. I did plant them late, so I'm sure I'll get a harvest of some sort here in the spring because some of these plants didn't start to develop heads or anything. See, this is the cauliflower and I have no head development here. So this plant should make it through the winter and then start producing a head in the spring. But I'm definitely learning that this later planting I did, even though these are supposed to be more cold tolerant plants, just don't contribute to the growth like I thought it would. And here in the high desert, it is definitely a concern when I'm planting my fall garden that my days get too hot and some of these cold loving plants won't take to it very nicely. So you're trying to walk this balance between getting the plants in early enough before the freezes and then also getting the plants in late enough where it's not 90 and 100 degrees every day. But what I've learned this year from my experiment, for the most part, is that earlier is going to be better no matter the heat. I put out several brassicas last fall towards the end of July, beginning of August, where it is still very, very hot. And they didn't love it, but they also didn't just go straight to seed like I was worried about. They actually survived, and they were some of the plants that I got my first harvest from when it was too cold to grow anything else. So I think this coming fall gardening season, from what I learned from my experiment last year, is I'm just going to plant everything earlier and throw caution to the wind and just get it in the ground so that I can get some sort of harvest before it's the beginning of January and it's way too cold to do much of anything. One thing that's still going strong are my root vegetables, although their growth has slowed exponentially because of how cold it's been. I've got good growth on my beets, but I don't have good root development on my beets. I'm not sure if that's a nutritional issue or just because it's too cold. I'm okay with it. I mean, they're not hurting me by just growing slower. I just won't get beets as quickly as I thought. But my radishes are doing great and my carrots are doing good. it's just slower. It's a slower time of year for the garden, which I am all for right now because I've just been reading book after book after book and enjoying my relaxing time all the time. Looking at this soil, it's actually a bit drier. I think I'm gonna have to water today. But see, all my beets are doing pretty good. They're a little droopy. There's some frost damage here from the temperatures we've been getting, but otherwise they're healthy. I just don't have a lot of root bulb development on these guys. These daikon radishes though, yeah, this guy's gonna be long. I found one recipe for daikon radish that's like a zesty coleslaw. I think I told you guys about it. It's so good. But it's also the only thing I know how to make with radishes is some sort of coleslaw. So if anyone has any other ideas for radishes, because I've got a ton here to use and I can't just make the same coleslaw all the time, please let me know down in the comments or just send me a link to your favorite radish recipe because I need some help. Got some rutabagas here that are coming along. This one's actually probably ready to be harvested. I just don't have a need for him right now. And rutabagas are great because you can, I mean, all root vegetables are really great because you can basically just store them in the ground as long as it's cold enough until you need them. If I were to take this rutabaga inside and not use it and leave it in the fridge, it would eventually go bad faster than if I just left it here in the ground and didn't use it and pulled it up the day that I needed it. Got another one right here. He could definitely use some more growth. That guy's small. But he's probably not getting the nutrients and sun that he needs right next to these two Brussels sprouts. And here in this mess I've got more. Here he is. Just buried. Don't even think about it, dude. Mostly everything else in the garden is doing okay. My onions and garlic are fine. Those two plants are a marathon, not a race. So I won't be really monitoring them for like major health and growth until the spring when it starts warming up again. I've got a few herbs still kicking. A couple dill plants, the ones that are like really shaded out and protected from the weather by other plants, are doing okay, although a couple have died. Most of my calendula is gone. It's just not that cold tolerant. And even if it was, I mean, I'm not looking for my calendula plants to be blooming and giving me tons of flowers in the middle of winter. So that's fine. I've still got cilantro, although my mint is definitely asleep for the winter. Mostly everything else is good. I mean, my plants are growing, albeit slowly, but they're still alive. And the only thing that I've had just a huge loss of so far this winter is my cauliflower. But I did get a few harvests before it got too cold and the rest of them got ruined. But like I said, chicken food, not a complete loss. And right now, they're still in the soil and still adding nutrients to the soil, which is just beneficial for my garden overall. Oh, and my peas. These guys are done. I mean, sure, some of them are still green, but I'm definitely not getting any peas before springtime. But maybe, just maybe, these plants will live through the rest of the winter and I'll get some peas bright and early in the spring. I'm not counting on it, but maybe. Let me harvest this guy and I'm gonna go inside because I have a book to read. It's a little small. Looks good though. Alright guys, so I'm going to take this broccoli inside and I just wanted to give you a quick little garden update for the new year about what's still chugging along in my winter garden. And mostly it's everything. Everything has done great this year. I'm very, very, very happy with my winter garden thus far and excited to do my spring garden or start on my spring garden. I've been seeing a ton of reels and videos about people starting their plans for their 2024 spring garden. I have not done that yet, nor do I have any desire to right now. I am 100% loving, still relaxing, and not worrying about all of the work I have for this year yet. I think I'm still in vacation mode from the holidays. But I have started rifling through a few seed catalogs and started picking out things that I'm sure I want to try. So I will eventually this month, there's 30 days left, start working on plans for my spring garden, but just not today. I'm not ready to be out of my slow mode for the winter. The next biggest task on the list actually is taking care of these extra roosters that we have, which we still have not done yet. But they're getting along, so it's not like they're at any harm to themselves or my hens in their chicken tractor. It's just on the to-do list and it needs to get done. And I also need to start planning my big garden projects for this year that need to get done before April. So one of them is going to be building another garden bed, a large one, on the south side of the garden. All right, I'm rambling. I'm gonna go inside. I'll catch you guys on the next one.